Today, I am going to review the Loki Rxton 3 rubber. I am using the black 39° hardness version. I have been using this rubber on my forehand for more than 3 months. Previously, I was using an unboosted commercial Hurricane 3 Neo with a 38° hardness. So, I will compare the Rxton 3 with the H3 Neo. Both unboosted. Please note that the H3 Neo was 38 degrees, and the Rxton 3 is 39 degrees on the hardness scale. However, in real life, the difference in hardness is negligible. Both the rubbers are very close to each other. So let's start. The first thing I noticed is the difference in throw angle. The Rxton 3 definitely has a higher throw angle than the H3 Neo. With the same racket angle, the ball crosses the net at a much higher height compared to H3 Neo, and then it dips suddenly. In the beginning of the rally, you can clearly see the ball flying too high as it crosses the net. To reduce the trajectory, I need to use a slight downward swing. For reference, my opponent is using H3 Neo red, 38 degrees. Notice the difference in height when he is countering his shots travel much lower than mine. However, because of the high throw angle, I feel Rxton 3 is easier to play with than H3 Neo. Another noticeable difference is in speed. Please note that the rubber is unboosted, and I will compare it with the unboosted H3 Neo. The counters are slightly faster than with H3 Neo, maybe around 15–20% faster. Even though the rubber feels faster, the overall feel is very good. I am using an inner fiber blade, and the ball grips the rubber very well. We can even hear the click sound coming out of the rubber. I usually prefer the rubber with such sound because it works as a feedback system. If I hear the click sound, I know that I have made a good connection. Additionally, the higher speed facilitates placing the counters on the far side of the table with minimal effort. Such counters are usually more difficult to deal with. The rubber helps control the direction of the ball, which is important when placing shots during counters. Still, I would say the control of H3 Neo is slightly better, mainly due to low speed and high dwell time. Another important point is that this rubber is not suitable for passive hitters. By passive hitter, I mean players who block using only the racket angle and do not move their arm to control the ball. This is especially true for players who are used to European rubbers. Because the throw angle is higher, even if your block lands on the table, the ball will often be too high. This gives your opponent an easy chance to attack the next ball. Overall, Rxton 3 is a very good rubber for counters and flat hits, and in these aspects, it outperforms H3 Neo. Now let us talk about topspins. The spin potential of this rubber is excellent. You can see that the topspins are very spinny and the ball consistently lands near the far end of the table without much effort. This is because the rubber is inherently more dynamic than that of the H3 Neo. By dynamic, I mean the catapult is more than the H3 Neo, although not by much. However, the tackiness is less, making the rubber more dynamic. The quality of the shots also feels slightly higher than the H3 Neo. The main difference between H3 Neo and Rxton 3 is that it is easier to generate spin with H3 Neo without too much body movement. The on-tee get me wrong, H3 still requires effort, but it is still less demanding than Rxton 3. However, the maximum spin you can produce is much higher with Rxton 3. So, H3 Neo can produce spin with lower effort, while Rxton 3 produces higher spin with higher effort. If your body posture is low and you have good body rotation, the spin you get on the ball is extremely high. In short, the Rxton 3 does not allow for passive play, and it is not just the spin, the speed that comes with that high spin is also greater. This increases the overall ball quality, making it very difficult for your opponent to return the shot. However, sometimes it carries the ball and making it difficult to find the table. The feel of the rubber is also great. It grabs the ball nicely. The top sheet has some tackiness, which helps increase dwell time. When the ball contacts the rubber, you can really feel the rubber holding onto the ball. Moreover, I think the top sheet is grippy as well, and not glass-like shiny. If you're interested in tackiness, I've already uploaded a short showing the tackiness of this rubber. H3 Neo is definitely more tacky than Rxton 3, but with the commercial version of H3 Neo, it has always hit or miss. I have ordered 3 sheets of H3 Neo over the past 2 years. The oldest one is the tackiest. One is completely non-tacky, and the other is mildly tacky. I will try to upload a short comparison of the tackiness of the H3 Neo and Rxton 3. Now, not everything is perfect with Rxton 3. If you are not in position or you do not contact the ball properly, the spin drops quickly and the quality of the shot decreases. And unlike in counters, topspin is a little more difficult on Rxton 3 than H3 Neo. Rxton 3 becomes more challenging to use and requires greater effort to produce good quality topspins. Okay, let us discuss blocking against topspins. This is another area where the rubber struggles a bit. As I mentioned earlier in the counter section, the throw angle is high. On top of that, the top sheet is quite spin sensitive. This makes it difficult to block with a stationary arm position. Almost always, I need to swing my arm slightly to control the block. It is not a big problem, you can adjust your arm and manage the rebound. And you can even redirect the ball if needed. But blocking is not just about returning the ball to the other side. Sometimes I want to vary the pace to break the opponent's rhythm. For example, I may want to play a slow block, so the opponent has to move in and adjust before attacking. This is difficult with Rxton 3. The blocks almost always travel at a similar pace, and the opponent can keep attacking continuously. Another point, it is really hard to block slow, spinny topspins with this rubber. In fact, I find it much easier to attack those slow, spinny balls than to block them safely. Overall, I believe this rubber is designed for an aggressive style of play. It focuses more on attack than on defense. Now, let us talk about serves and topspin against underspin. The serves are very spinny with this rubber. Please note that I personally do not have a very strong backspin serve yet, I'm still working on it. But even with that, it is quite easy to keep the serve short and spinny. Short serves work very well with this rubber and often give you an easy high ball that you can finish quickly. Side spin serves are also very effective. There is a noticeable kick after the second bounce, which makes it difficult for the opponent to receive the serve properly. However, when it comes to serving technique, I would still recommend watching more dedicated videos or reading forum discussions for better insights. Coming to looping, this is where the rubber really shines. Looping is extremely enjoyable with Rxton 3. The dwell time feels amazing, and it is easy to place the ball into both corners of the table. The loops are very spinny, and even if your opponent blocks them, there is a high chance the ball will bounce high and give you an opportunity to finish the point. In terms of looping quality, I don't find it better or worse than H3 Neo. Both rubbers are equally great for looping. During the past 3 months, I have mostly used this rubber on my forehand, so I won't comment too much on its full backhand potential. The main reason I did not use it on my backhand is the speed of the rubber. I prefer slightly slower and more control-oriented rubbers on the backhand side. Another reason is that this rubber requires a larger arm movement to produce strong spin. That said, it can be a very good backhand option if you can control the speed. Because the throw angle is higher, it becomes very easy to inject speed on the backhand. For example, even if you are simply pushing or blocking, if the opportunity appears, you can quickly finish the point with a fast backhand shot. The spin is also quite good considering how fast the rubber is. The ball dips nicely once it crosses the net, and then bounces up into the opponent, often cramping their position and making it harder for them to attack. To conclude the video, I would like to share my final opinion on this rubber. I would definitely recommend this rubber, especially for the forehand side. It offers excellent speed and spin. I believe it is a very good option for advanced beginners to intermediate players, especially for those transitioning from rubbers like Yinhe Mercury. Even though it is slightly fast, I would still recommend it to beginners, because it encourages proper positioning for the next shot. And when you use good body movement, it rewards you with very high quality shots. I purchased this rubber for around $11 US, while H3 Neo costs around $20 US. Both rubbers have a similar playing style, and in my opinion, Rxton 3 slightly surpasses H3 Neo, especially when the price is taken into account. Out of the box, it is already fast and spinny, so there is no need for boosting. The durability is also excellent. I've been using it for the past 3 months, and I hardly notice any performance degradation. Although it has lost some of its tackiness, the spin performance remains very strong. This rubber can also be used on the backhand due to its higher throw angle. However, I would not recommend it for beginners on the backhand, because of its speed and slightly lower control in that area. That said, it can be a great backhand option for intermediate players. The only major drawback I can think of is its spin sensitivity. If you are comfortable with that, then go for it. It is a worthy alternative to H3 Neo commercial. The feel is not exactly the same, but the overall playing style is quite similar. You can master your technique with this rubber, and then move on to costly provincial hurricane rubbers later. That's it for today. Thank you for watching.